It was a rainy November night. I was sitting alone in my apartment when I heard a weak knock at the door. It was almost midnight. When I opened it, my heart stopped. Marcus, my twin brother, stood there soaking wet. His left eye was swollen shut. His lip was split open. His shirt was torn and stained with blood. Before I could say anything, he collapsed into my arms and whispered, "They did it again, Edison. I cannot take it anymore." That was not the first time, but it was the worst. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if you believe family should always protect each other, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. What would you do if you saw your twin brother, your other half, standing at your door looking like he just lost a fight he never asked for? Stay with me because what we did next changed everything. Marcus and I came into this world together 7 minutes apart. I was the older one, though Marcus never let me forget it was only 7 minutes. We grew up in a quiet suburb outside Denver, Colorado. Our parents were good people. Dad worked as a mechanic and Mom was a nurse at the local hospital. They taught us that family was everything. They showed us what it meant to love unconditionally. When we were 17, everything changed. A drunk driver ran a red light and took both of them from us in one terrible moment. I remember standing at the funeral holding Marcus's hand, both of us trying to be strong for each other. That night we made a promise. We swore we would always protect each other no matter what. We were all each other had left. Growing up as identical twins was something special. We looked exactly alike. Same height, same build, same brown eyes and dark hair. Our teachers could never tell us apart. Our friends gave up trying. We used this to our advantage more times than I can count. In high school, I took Marcus's math test when he was sick because he was terrible at algebra. He went on a date for me once when I got food poisoning. We had each other's backs in ways only twins can understand. After high school, we went different directions, but stayed close. I became an electrician. I liked working with my hands, solving problems, building things. Marcus went to college and became an accountant. He was always the smarter one with numbers. Despite our different careers, we made sure to see each other every week. Sunday dinners at my place or his. Phone calls that lasted hours. We shared everything. 3 years ago, Marcus met Diana at a company party. He called me that night and I could hear the excitement in his voice. He said she was beautiful, kind, and had the most amazing smile. I was happy for him. After everything we had been through, Marcus deserved to find love. I met Diana a few weeks later. She was pretty, I will give her that. Blonde hair, green eyes, worked in real estate. She seemed nice enough, but something felt off to me from the beginning. I could not put my finger on it. Maybe it was the way she always talked about her family. Her father, Frank, owned a small construction company. Her 2 older brothers, Victor and Raymond, worked for him. She mentioned them constantly, like they were the most important people in her life. The first time I met her family was at a barbecue at Frank's house. Victor and Raymond were exactly what I expected. Big guys, both over 6 feet tall and probably 230 pounds each. They had played football in college and still carried themselves like they owned every room they walked into. When Marcus introduced himself, Victor shook his hand a little too hard and said, "So, you are the one taking our little sister away, huh?" He smiled when he said it, but his eyes were cold. I pulled Marcus aside that evening. I told him something did not feel right about those brothers. The way they looked at him, the way they talked to Diana like she was property they needed to protect. Marcus laughed it off. He said they were just overprotective, that it was actually sweet how much they cared about their sister. He was so in love with Diana that he could not see what I saw. The wedding happened 2 years ago. I stood beside Marcus as his best man, watching him say his vows to Diana. I wanted to be happy for him. Part of me was, but I also felt a knot in my stomach that would not go away. During the reception, I stepped outside for some air and saw Victor pull Marcus around the corner of the building. I stayed in the shadows and listened. "You better treat her right," Victor said, his voice low and threatening, "or you will answer to us." Marcus laughed nervously and said something about how much he loved Diana. Victor did not laugh. He just stared at Marcus for a long moment before walking away. I wanted to say something to Marcus that night, but he was so happy. I did not want to ruin his wedding day. That was my first mistake. After the wedding, Marcus moved to be closer to Diana's family. His new place was about 2 hours from my apartment. At first, nothing seemed different. We still talked on the phone, though maybe not as often. But then I started noticing things. Marcus would cancel our video calls at the last minute. When we did talk, he seemed distracted, quieter than usual. I told myself he was just adjusting to married life. That Christmas, Marcus came to visit me alone. Diana had to work, he said. When I hugged him, I noticed him wince. Later, when he rolled up his sleeves to help me cook dinner, I saw bruises on his wrists, purple and yellow marks that looked painful. "What happened?" I asked. Marcus pulled his sleeves down quickly. "Accident at work," he said. "Bumped into a shelf." I wanted to believe him. I really did. Marcus had never lied to me before. But something in his eyes told me there was more to the story. I let it go that day. That was my second mistake. Now, let me take you back to that rainy November night. Marcus was lying on my couch and I was cleaning the blood from his face with a warm towel. Up close, the damage was worse than I thought. His left eye was completely swollen shut, turning dark purple. His lip was split in 2 places. When I helped him take off his shirt, I saw bruises covering his ribs. Some were fresh angry red and purple. Others were older, fading to yellow and green. This had been going on for a while. "Tell me everything," I said, "from the beginning." Marcus closed his good eye and took a shaky breath. Then he started talking. "It began right after the honeymoon," he said. "Victor and Raymond started coming over to the house regularly. They said they were just visiting their sister, but really they were checking up on Marcus. They wanted to know how much money he made, what he spent it on, whether Diana was happy. If they did not like his answers, they let him know. The first time they hit him was 3 months into the marriage. Victor wanted to borrow $5,000 for some business deal. Marcus said no because he and Diana were saving for a house. That night, Victor came back alone. He punched Marcus in the stomach so hard that Marcus could not breathe for a full minute. Then Victor smiled and said, "Next time the answer is yes." Marcus did not tell Diana. He was embarrassed. He thought it was a one-time thing. He was wrong. Over the next year, the beatings became regular. Victor and Raymond always had a reason. Marcus did not take Diana on a nice enough vacation. Marcus made Diana cry during an argument. Marcus did not show enough respect to Frank at a family dinner. The reasons changed, but the result was always the same. Bruises, pain, fear. "Why did you not tell me?" I asked, my voice cracking. Marcus shook his head. "Victor said if I told anyone he would destroy my career. He knows People Edison. He said he would make sure I never worked as an accountant again. And Diana—" He paused, his voice breaking. "Diana told me it was my fault. She said if I just did what her brothers wanted, they would leave me alone. She said that was just how her family was." I felt sick to my stomach. Diana knew. She knew her brothers were beating her husband and she did nothing. She blamed him for it. "What about her father?" I asked. "Frank must know what his sons are like." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Frank is the worst of all. He told me I should be grateful they are teaching me how to be a real man. He said his sons only hurt people who deserve it." I stood up and walked to the window, trying to control the rage building inside me. Outside, the rain was still falling. I thought about our parents, about the promise we made at their funeral. I had failed Marcus. For an entire year, my brother had been living in hell, and I had not seen it. "Why tonight?" I asked. "What happened tonight that made you finally come here?" Marcus sat up slowly, wincing in pain. "I asked Diana for a divorce. I told her I could not live like this anymore. She called her brothers immediately. They came over within an hour." He touched his swollen eye gently. "Victor said if I tried to leave Diana, they would put me in the hospital for real. Raymond said next time they would break my legs." I turned around and looked at my brother, my twin, the person who shared my face, my blood, my entire life. He looked broken. Not just physically, but something inside him had shattered. The confident, happy Marcus I knew was gone, replaced by someone who flinched at sudden movements and could not meet my eyes. "I am going to kill them," I said. The words came out calm, which scared me. "No," Marcus said quickly. "They are bigger than us, stronger, and there are two of them. If you try anything, they will hurt you too, or worse." I walked to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. The face staring back at me was identical to Marcus's. Same eyes, same jaw, same everything. And suddenly, an idea formed in my mind. An idea that was crazy dangerous and probably illegal, but it was also perfect. "They cannot tell us apart," I said slowly. "No one can. Not even Diana." Marcus looked at me with confusion. "What are you talking about?" I walked back to the couch and knelt beside him. "We are going to switch places, Marcus. I am going to become you. I am going back to that house and I am going to make Victor and Raymond pay for what they did. But I am going to do it smart. I am going to destroy them without throwing a single punch." Marcus shook his head. "Edison, that is insane. If they find out—" "They will not find out until it is too late," I said. "Trust me, brother. You trusted them and they hurt you. Now trust me. I will never let anyone hurt you again." The next 3 days, I focused on 2 things: taking care of Marcus and planning my revenge. Marcus stayed at my apartment while his injuries healed. I made him soup, changed his bandages, and sat with him when the nightmares woke him up screaming. During the day, I made phone calls. My first call was to Jake. Jake had been my best friend since middle school. He was also a former MMA fighter who had competed at the amateur level for 5 years before a knee injury ended his career. Now he worked as a personal trainer, but he still had the skills and the build of someone you did not want to fight. When I told him what had happened to Marcus, Jake went quiet for a long moment. "What do you need?" he asked. "I need you to teach me some basic self-defense moves. And I need you to have my back when I confront these guys." Jake did not hesitate. "I am in. When do we start?" For the next week, Jake came to my apartment every day. He taught me how to block punches, how to use my opponent's weight against them, how to stay calm when someone was trying to hurt me. I was not going to become a fighter in 1 week, but I did not need to. I just needed to surprise them long enough to gain the upper hand. My second call was to Officer Bradley. He had been a cop in our neighborhood when Marcus and I were growing up. He watched us play basketball in the park, gave us rides home when it rained, and came to our parents' funeral to pay his respects. Now, he was a sergeant at the local police department. When I explained the situation, he was furious. "That is domestic abuse," Bradley said. "Why did Marcus not report it? He was scared. They threatened his career, his safety, and his wife was complicit." Bradley sighed heavily. "Here is the problem, Edison. Without evidence, it is his word against theirs. And from what you are telling me, these guys have connections. We need recordings, photographs, something concrete." "What if I could get them to confess?" I asked. "On recording. If you record them admitting to the abuse and they threaten you or assault you on camera, we would have enough to arrest them. But Edison, this is dangerous. These are violent men." "I know," I said, "but Marcus is my brother. I cannot let this go." Officer Bradley was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I cannot officially condone what you are planning, but unofficially, if you get that evidence, call me immediately. I will have officers standing by." While Jake trained me physically, Marcus trained me mentally. We spent hours going over every detail of his life with Diana, how he greeted her in the morning, what pet names he used, his daily routine, his habits, the way he walked and talked around her family. Marcus told me things about his marriage that brothers usually do not share, but we needed the deception to be perfect. "Victor always tests you," Marcus warned me. "He will say something insulting to see if you react." I always looked away and stayed quiet. He expects submission. "I can do submission," I said, "for a little while." By the end of the week, Marcus looked better. The swelling around his eye had gone down and most of his bruises were fading. More importantly, something had changed in his expression. There was hope there now, Hope that maybe this nightmare could actually end. "Are you sure about this?" he asked me the night before I left. I put my hand on his shoulder. 7 minutes older, remember? Taking care of you is literally my first job. The drive to Marcus's house took just under 2 hours. It was a nice place in a quiet neighborhood, 3 bedrooms with a big backyard. The kind of house where you imagine raising kids and growing old together. The kind of house that should have been filled with love instead of fear. Diana opened the front door before I even reached the porch. She must have been watching for the car. She looked exactly like I remembered, blonde and pretty with those green eyes that I now knew could watch her husband get beaten and feel nothing. "Marcus," she said, rushing forward to hug me. "I am so glad you came back. I was so worried about you." I forced myself to return the embrace. Her perfume was too sweet, almost sickening. "I am sorry I ran off like that," I said, using the soft voice Marcus had taught me. "I just needed some time to think." Diana pulled back and looked at my face. For a terrifying moment I thought she knew. I thought she could see that I was not her husband. But then she smiled and took my hand. "Let us go inside. I made your favorite dinner." Over the next 2 days, I lived Marcus's life. I ate meals with Diana. I slept in Marcus's bed while she lay beside me. I answered work emails and pretended to be happy. Every moment was torture, but I kept my phone recording whenever possible. And Diana gave me plenty of material. On the first night while we were eating dinner, she said casually, "You really upset Victor when you talked about divorce. You know how protective my brothers are." "I know," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "I should not have said anything." "They just want what is best for me," Diana continued. "Sometimes Victor gets carried away, but he would never actually hurt you badly. He just needs you to understand your place in this family." I nodded and took another bite of food, even though I wanted to flip the table over. My place in this family. Like Marcus was a dog that needed to be trained. On the second day, Diana mentioned that her brothers would be coming over tomorrow afternoon. "They want to talk to you," she said, "to make sure everything is okay now. Just agree with whatever they say, and it will be fine." "I understand," I said. And I did. I understood exactly what kind of family this was, and I was ready for them. The morning of the 3rd day, I texted Jake the address and told him to park down the street. Then, I texted Officer Bradley and let him know the confrontation would likely happen within a few hours. I set my phone to record video and slipped it into my shirt pocket with the camera facing outward. Then I waited. Victor and Raymond arrived at 2 in the afternoon. They did not knock. They just walked in like they owned the place. Victor was wearing a black t-shirt that stretched across his massive chest. Raymond had a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. They looked like exactly what they were. Bullies who had never faced consequences for their actions. Diana greeted them with hugs and then disappeared into the kitchen to make coffee. Victor sat down across from me in the living room. Raymond stood by the door blocking the exit. "So," Victor said, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, "I heard you have been thinking clearly since our last conversation." "I have," I said quietly. "Good, because I want to make sure we understand each other." Victor's voice was calm, almost friendly. That made it worse. "You are part of this family now, and in this family we take care of each other, but we also respect each other. Do you respect me, Marcus?" I looked down at my hands playing the role Marcus had described. Submissive. Scared. "Yes," I said. "I respect you." Raymond laughed from behind me. "He does not sound very convincing." Victor tilted his head, studying me. Something flickered in his eyes. Suspicion. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." I raised my head and met his gaze. That was my mistake. Or maybe it was my intention. Because I did not look away. I did not flinch. I stared right into Victor's eyes with all the hatred I had been holding inside for weeks. Victor stood up slowly. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Like what?" I asked. "Like you are not afraid of me." He stepped closer. "Marcus is always afraid of me. He knows what happens when he forgets his place." I stood up too. We were the same height, but Victor had at least 40 pounds on me. That did not matter. I was done pretending. Maybe I'm not Marcus, I said. Victor's face went through several expressions in about 2 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, then rage. What the hell are you talking about? I am Edison, I said clearly, making sure my phone caught every word. Marcus is my identical twin brother, and you have been beating him for an entire year. Raymond cursed and started moving toward me. Victor's hand shot out and grabbed my shirt collar. You think you are clever, Victor snarled. You think this changes anything. We will just beat you instead. Go ahead, I said. But you should know that I have been recording this entire conversation. I have recordings from the past 2 days of Diana admitting she knew about the abuse, and I have a friend outside who is very eager to meet you. The back door opened, and Jake walked in. He was 6'3" and 220 pounds of trained muscle. His presence filled the room in a way that made Victor and Raymond look almost normal-sized. Raymond immediately tried to rush Jake. It was a mistake. Jake sidestepped, grabbed Raymond's arm, and twisted it behind his back in one smooth motion. Raymond yelped in pain and dropped to his knees. Victor shoved me backward and raised his fist. I remembered Jake's training. When Victor swung, I stepped to the side and drove my elbow into his ribs. It was not a knockout blow, but it surprised him enough that he stumbled. Before he could recover, Jake was there pressing Raymond's face into the floor with one hand while grabbing Victor's shoulder with the other. I would not do that if I were you, Jake said calmly. I have been waiting for a reason to hurt someone who deserves it. Diana came running from the kitchen screaming. What is happening? Who are you, Victor Raymond? Shut up, Diana, I said. The coldness in my voice surprised even me. I know everything. I know you watched your brothers beat your husband. I know you told him it was his fault. I know you are just as guilty as they are. Diana's face went pale. You tricked me. You are not Marcus. This is illegal. You cannot just pretend to be someone else. Actually, I can. And everything I recorded is admissible because I was in my brother's home with his permission. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. Smile, Diana. You are going to be famous. The front door opened and Officer Bradley walked in with 2 other officers. They had been parked around the corner waiting for my signal. Victor and Raymond Hartley. Bradley said, his voice official and stern. You are under arrest for assault and battery. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Victor tried to argue. He said it was a setup, that I had provoked them, that they had connections and would have the charges dropped by morning. Bradley just smiled and said, We have video evidence of you threatening violence. We have testimony from the victim. And we have a year's worth of hospital records that your brother-in-law was apparently too scared to share until now. Your connections cannot help you this time. As the officers handcuffed Victor and Raymond Frank's car pulled into the driveway, he must have gotten a call from Diana. He came storming into the house red-faced and shouting about how this was all a misunderstanding, how his boys were good men who would never hurt anyone. Your good men have been beating my brother for a year, I said, and you knew about it. You told Marcus he should be grateful they were teaching him how to be a man. Well, here is your lesson, Frank. This is what happens when you teach your sons that violence is the answer. Frank looked at his sons in handcuffs at Diana crying on the couch at the officers documenting the scene. For the first time he seemed to understand that his money and influence could not fix this. This is not over, he said to me. You are right, I replied. It is just beginning. The legal process took several months. Victor and Raymond were charged with multiple counts of assault and battery. The recordings I made, combined with Marcus's testimony and medical records, painted a clear picture of systematic abuse. Their lawyer tried to argue that the evidence was obtained under false pretenses, but the judge ruled it admissible. Marcus had given me permission to be in his home and to record for his protection. In the end, Victor was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Raymond got 15 months. It was not as much as I wanted, but it was something. More importantly, they now had criminal records. Their father's construction company lost several major contracts when the story got out. Turns out, people do not want to do business with a family that beats their own relatives. Diana filed for divorce, hoping to take half of Marcus's savings in the settlement. Her lawyer was not very good. Marcus's lawyer was excellent. When all the evidence of Diana's complicity in the abuse came out, the judge awarded Marcus everything. Diana got nothing except the shame of having her actions made public. The first few months after the confrontation were hard for Marcus. He stayed at my apartment while the divorce was finalized. Some nights I would hear him crying in the guest room. Other nights he would wake up screaming from nightmares where Victor and Raymond were still hurting him. The physical wounds healed quickly. The mental ones took much longer. I took time off work to be with him. We watched movies, cooked meals together, and sometimes just sat in silence because that was what Marcus needed. I went with him to his first therapy appointment and waited in the parking lot until he was done. Slowly, day by day, I watched my brother start to heal. 6 months later, Marcus moved into his own apartment. It was smaller than the house he had shared with Diana, but it was his. A fresh start in a new neighborhood where nobody knew his past. He went back to work and found that his colleagues had heard about what happened. Instead of judging him, they supported him. His boss gave him a promotion. About a year after that terrible night when Marcus showed up at my door, he called me with news. He had met someone. Her name was Sophie, and she worked in his office. She was kind and patient, and she knew about everything he had been through. Marcus was scared to start dating again, but Sophie made him feel safe. I met Sophie at Sunday dinner a few weeks later. She was nothing like Diana. Warm, genuine, with a laugh that filled the room. When she looked at Marcus, I could see real love in her eyes. Not possession, not control, just love. "Thank you," Marcus said to me that night after Sophie had gone home. "For everything." "That is what brothers are for," I said. He shook his head. "No, I mean it. You saved my life, Edison. Not just physically. You saved who I am. I was disappearing in that marriage. I was becoming someone I did not recognize. You brought me back." I thought about our parents then, about the promise we made at their funeral. I had kept that promise, but more than that, I had learned something important about what family really means. Family is not just about sharing blood or a last name. It is about showing up when someone needs you. It is about protecting each other even when it is hard, even when it is dangerous. Looking back now, I do not regret anything I did. I know some people might say I went too far, that I should have just called the police from the beginning. But the police could not have done anything without evidence. Victor and Raymond would have kept hurting Marcus until they finally went too far. I could not let that happen. The only thing I regret is not seeing the signs sooner. I should have pushed harder when Marcus avoided my calls. I should have demanded answers when I saw those bruises on his wrists. I let my brother suffer alone for far too long, and that guilt will stay with me forever. But I also know that guilt does not help anyone. The best thing I can do now is be there for Marcus every day going forward. Here is what I learned from this experience. No one has the right to hurt someone under the name of family. Love should never come with fear, and sometimes the only person who can save you is someone who shares your face, your blood, your whole history. That is what brothers are for. That is what family really means. If you are going through something similar, please know that you do not have to face it alone. There are people who love you, people who will fight for you. Reach out, ask for help. And if you see someone you love being hurt, do not wait. Do not make excuses. Do not hope it will get better on its own. Take action. Because sometimes being a good brother, a good friend, a good person means standing up even when you are scared. Marcus and Sophie got engaged last month. I am going to be the best man at their wedding, and this time when I stand beside my brother at the altar, I will not feel that knot in my stomach. I will only feel joy, because this time Marcus found someone who truly loves him, someone who would never let anyone hurt him, just like me. So now I want to ask you, have you ever had to stand up for someone you love even when it was risky? How far would you go to protect your family? Share your story in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like. If you want to see more stories about family loyalty and never giving up, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, share this video with them. You never know whose life you might change. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of the people you love. They are the only thing that really matters in this world.